So to start our general warm-up, we're going to start with some running/jogging in place, and we're going to make sure to progressively increase our speed over a period of 1 minute. Running in place can be a very convenient and effective cardio workout, and although it may not be as effective as standard running, running in place in this way will for sure burn calories, work your core and lower body muscles, and strengthen your heart. And performing this running in place will help increase your heart rate and get your body to a more aerobic state so you can perform the future exercises. For the next part in our general warm-up, we are going to be performing some high knees for 45 seconds. So to perform this exercise, you're going to stand tall with your feet hip to shoulder width apart and begin by bringing your right knee toward your chest slightly above waist level. Then you're going to start to alternate lifting your left and right leg up in this motion, switching back and forth continuously for the next 45 seconds as shown in the video. Once again, this is another great exercise to help you increase your heart rate and get your body to a more aerobic state. So you're going to want to make sure to stand straight and tall and begin by bringing one of your heels off the floor towards your glutes. Then switch to the other leg and repeat this movement on the other side. And you're going to repeat this alternating movement at a relatively high pace for the next 45 seconds. For our last part of the general warm-up, we are going to be performing some stationary A skips for 35 seconds. So begin the movement by lifting one knee up towards your chest while simultaneously completing a mini hop off the ball of your foot on the ground. Then as you bring your knee up, swing your opposite arm forward with your elbow bent close to 90 degrees while driving your other arm back. Then land softly on the ball of your foot while stepping your other foot down to the ground. Then immediately repeat the same movement on the other side and continue alternating legs in a fluid and rhythmic motion. And with that, we have come to the end of our general warm-up. So to begin our specific warm-up exercises section of the video, we're going to begin with some forward leg swings for 12 repetitions on each side. So to perform this warm-up, you're going to stand straight with your feet hip-width apart and holding on to a stable surface. Then, while keeping one leg stationary, swing the opposite leg forward and backward in a single smooth movement. Then switch sides and repeat until both sets are complete. So for this next warm-up, we're going to be doing some side leg swings for 12 repetitions on each side. So to perform this warm-up, you're going to want to stand tall and hold on to a stable surface in front of you. Then you're going to perform the movement by shifting your weight to your left leg and swinging your right leg to the right and then across your body to the left. Repeat this movement for 12 repetitions and then perform the same movement on the left leg. These forward and side leg swings are a great dynamic stretch to add after your general warm-up, and these exercises will stretch your hamstrings, your quads, and your calves. Our next part in our dynamic warm-up is going to be the side lunge stretch for 8 repetitions on each leg. So you're going to begin this warm-up in a standing position with your feet hip-width apart and position your hands in front of your chest. Then take a wide step with your left leg to your side. And you're going to bend your left knee as you step outward and keep your hips back. Then release this position by pushing off your left foot and returning to the starting position. You will then repeat this movement on your right leg and alternate between each, and once again, doing each side for 8 repetitions. Performing lateral lunges will work primarily the inner thigh muscles like the adductors and the outer glutes, and performing side lunges regularly can also improve balance and stability as well. For our last dynamic warm-up exercise, we're going to be performing some box step-ups for 20 total repetitions. To perform this movement, you're going to stand tall and place your left foot onto the box and push up through the foot to drive your body up and bring your right foot onto the box. Remember to focus on squeezing your glutes to help drive the movement. Then slowly return your right foot to the floor in a smooth, controlled movement. And you're going to alternate stepping onto the box with your left and right legs between each repetition, for a total of 10 repetitions on each leg. Performing box step-ups are a great exercise for strengthening the muscles in your lower body, as well as improving core strength, balance, and stability. And box step-ups will also help build your strength in the gluteal muscles as well. And with that, we have come to the end of our specific warm-up segment. So for our first exercise modality, we are going to be doing what is called the barbell clean pull for 8 repetitions. So for the starting position, you're going to want to address the barbell and stand roughly hip width apart with the barbell directly over your foot where your toes attach. Now as you sink your body downwards, make sure your knees are placed over the barbell and your shoulders are directly above. Make sure your lower back is flat and your chest is up. Then to initiate the movement, you're going to start by pushing straight down onto the floor with your legs, and your knees should naturally drift out of the path of the barbell. And make sure to keep your shoulders stacked over the bar vertically as you push with your whole foot firmly onto the floor. Then as the barbell flies upward, make sure you shrug hard at the top and allow your elbows to bend slightly. And allow the barbell to reach its apex and let it fall back to the floor while maintaining a loose grip. The majority of all the power and motion generated in a clean pull comes from your quadriceps and your glutes. This type of exercise is primarily used by athletes who are intending to improve their Olympic power clean. For this next variation, we are going to be performing a barbell clean pull, this time in a flat-footed position for 8 repetitions. Simply meaning that during the upward portion of the movement, we are going to be making sure to keep our feet flat on the ground. This flat-footed variation of the clean pull is useful for helping lifters to learn to better control their positions and balance throughout the pull, and to stay flat-footed longer rather than lifting the heels early or shifting forward in their pulls and lifts, and to execute and feel complete extension and vertical leg drive. For this final variation, we are going to be performing the clean pull, but this time generating a bit more force, trying to get the barbell to about chest height. Meaning that during the upward phase of the movement, we are going to try to generate enough force to where the barbell swings up to about chest level. You may perform this more challenging variation if you wish to perform a clean pull that requires a higher level of power throughout the movement. And we are going to be performing this for 8 repetitions as well. For this next exercise, we are going to be performing what is called a barbell hang clean for 8 repetitions. Now to start this exercise, you're going to want to begin by bending forward slightly at the hips and pushing your rear back and lowering the bar until it is just above your knees, and maintain a neutral spine. Then for the movement phase, you're going to want to begin by thrusting your hips forward while dropping your body into a squat position, while at the same time shrugging your shoulders and snapping the elbows forward to bring the bar up so you can almost hop under it, catching the bar at chest level in front of the shoulders as you would in a front squat. Then you're going to want to rise back to a standing position while keeping the bar on your shoulders in the front of the neck in a front racked position. Then lower the bar down with control to return it to the starting position. This hang clean exercise has a significant and positive effect on strength, power, performance, and speed development. And it is a full body exercise as well, with the primary muscles activated being the gluteus maximus, the hamstrings, the quadriceps, the erector spinae, the trapezius, the latissimus dorsi, the deltoids, and the soleus. Now for this next variation, we are going to be performing the same exact movement, except in the starting position, instead of placing the barbell slightly above the knee, we are going to be placing the barbell slightly below the knee. Performing the exercise in this way will increase the length of travel for the barbell, which will simply require a higher and more challenging power output when performing the exercise. And we are going to be performing this for 8 repetitions as well. For this final variation, once again, we are going to be performing the same exact movement as the previous 2, except this time in the starting position, you are going to be placing the barbell at the halfway point of your thigh. And performing the exercise in this way will simply reduce the length of travel during the upward phase of the movement. And the amount and level of power required throughout the movement is reduced. And we are going to be performing this variation for 8 repetitions as well. Now for our next exercise modality, we are going to start by performing what are called plyometric push-ups for 12 repetitions each. To start this exercise, you're going to want to start at the top of a push-up position. Then start to lower your body as if you're going down into a push-up until your chest is almost touching the floor. As you push up, try to do so with enough force for your hands to leave the ground. Then land lightly on the ground, moving into your next repetition immediately. Performing push-ups in this plyometric and explosive way can help activate fast-twitch muscle fibers in your chest, shoulders, and triceps. And working fast-twitch muscle fibers may help you build strength and muscle mass. For this next variation, we are going to be performing the same plyometric push-up, but this time on your knees. Many people may find it difficult to generate enough power and explosiveness during the upward phase of the push-up, so performing the push-up on your knees with this variation will simply create an easier way to perform the movement. And we are going to be performing this variation for 12 repetitions as well. Now for this final variation, we're going to be performing the same plyometric push-up, but this time during the upward phase of the movement, when both hands are lifted off the ground, you're going to be performing a clap in between repetitions. So as you push up, you're going to want to do so with enough force for your hands to leave the ground and clap in between repetitions. Performing the exercise in this way is a more challenging one, as it requires more power and explosiveness during the upward phase of the push-up, as your hands both have to leave the ground and clap at the same time in between each repetition. And we are going to be performing this exercise for 12 repetitions as well. For this next exercise, we're going to be performing what are called depth drop push-ups. For this exercise, you're going to want to make sure to either get some weighted plates or some foam blocks to serve as raised platforms for the exercise. And so to begin the exercise, you're going to want to start at the top of a push-up position with your hands on the raised platforms of equal height and that are placed on either side of the shoulders. Then you're going to want to begin the movement by dropping both arms and moving the hands off the platform and onto the floor. Then perform a push-up and explosively extend the arms so that the hands leave the ground and land back on the raised platforms. Performing this exercise is a great calisthenic and plyometric exercise that primarily targets the chest and to a lesser degree also targets the middle back, shoulders, and tricep muscles. Now for this next variation, much like the last exercise, we're going to be performing the same exact movement, but this time in the starting position, we are going to be at our knees. Once again, performing the exercise in this variation can provide an easier way for those to perform the exercise that are finding it difficult to generate enough explosiveness and power during the upward phase of the movement. And we are going to be performing this variation for 10 repetitions as well. Now for this final variation, we are going to be performing the same exact exercise as the past two variations, except this time we are going to be increasing the height of the raised platforms. Performing the exercise in this way is a more challenging variation, as the higher platforms will result in greater eccentric loading and will require a higher level of power and explosiveness and are more appropriate for experienced athletes. And we are going to be performing this variation for 10 repetitions as well. For this next exercise modality, we're going to be performing what is called the squat jump for 12 repetitions each time. Now to perform this exercise, you're going to want to bend your knees and descend to a full squat position. Then engage through the quads and propel the body up and off the floor, extending through the legs, making sure the legs are fully extended and the feet will be a few inches off the floor. Descend and control your landing by going through the foot and descend into the squat again for another explosive jump. Upon landing, immediately repeat the next jump. The squat jump primarily works the lower body muscles, including the glutes, the hamstrings, the calves, and the quads. Performing this exercise is a great drill that improves agility and power, as well as helping improve an athlete's vertical jump. For this next variation, we are going to be performing an easier version of the squat jump, this time doing a partial squat in between repetitions. Performing the exercise in this way will simply require less force to be generated during the jump portion of the squat and is a more appropriate variation to perform for those who are beginner athletes. And we are going to be performing this variation for 12 repetitions as well. Now this final variation of the squat jump is going to be the most challenging one, as we are going to be going into a deep squat past the 90-degree angle of a regular squat. This variation of the squat jump is a more challenging one, as it increases the distance of travel during the jumping phase of the movement, and will require a higher level of explosive power throughout the exercise. Performing this variation is primarily intended for those who are more experienced athletes. And we are going to be performing this variation for 12 repetitions as well. Now for this next exercise, we're going to be doing a double leg jump to box, also known by many as box jumps, for 10 repetitions each time. To perform the exercise, you're going to want to stand with the box one short step in front of you and with your feet shoulder width apart. Then bend your knees slightly and drop down, and use the momentum from your quarter squat to propel you upward as you jump onto the box, allowing your arms to swing out in front of you. Then land softly on both feet with a slight bend in the knees. Then step back down and repeat. Performing a box jump exercise such as this will once again help increase your power and explosiveness and will help improve and increase your vertical jump range as well. And the primary muscles being targeted during this exercise are your quadriceps, your hamstrings, your calf muscles, and your glutes. For this next variation, we are going to be performing the same exact movement, except this time simply increasing the height. So for example, I am increasing my height from the previous 20 inches now to 24 inches. Performing the exercise with increased height is a more challenging variation for those who wish to perform the movement that will require a higher vertical jump and a higher level of explosiveness. And this variation is primarily recommended for more experienced athletes. Now for this final variation, we are going to be performing the box jump, except this time during the landing phase of the movement, we are going to be landing laterally onto the box for each repetition. So for each repetition during the jumping phase of the movement, you're going to want to rotate your body while in the air, landing laterally onto the box. Performing the box jump in this way will not only require explosiveness and power throughout the movement, but will also require balance during the landing phase of the movement. And we are going to be performing this variation for 10 repetitions as well. For this next exercise modality, we're going to be performing mountain climbers. So to start this exercise, you're going to want to begin in a plank position, keeping your back straight and your hips low while your core is engaged. Then bring your right knee under your chest towards your right elbow. Return your right leg back to the plank position. Bring your left leg under your chest toward your left elbow. Repeat while alternating your legs, making sure to keep a steady pace. Remember to breathe and concentrate on engaging your abdominal muscles. Mountain climbers are a great exercise that work the abdominal muscles, the lower back, the glutes, and the hamstrings, which are all muscle groups that help us to maintain good posture. And it is a great high-intensity exercise while also being low impact. And we are going to try performing these mountain climbers for 35 seconds at a time each. Now for this next variation, we are going to be performing the same exact movement, except this time for the position, instead of being in an upright push-up position, we are going to be in a plank position on your forearms. Performing mountain climbers in this variation on your forearms is an excellent variation of the traditional mountain climber that still targets your abdominal muscles, but places more of an emphasis on the obliques. And completing the mountain climbers on your forearms rather than on your hands makes it a more challenging movement. And we are going to be performing this variation for 35 seconds as well. Now for this final variation of the mountain climbers, we're going to be performing the same movement. This time, in the starting position, you are going to be placing your hands on an elevated surface. While the basic mountain climber exercise places your hands on the floor, the incline mountain climber exercise requires equipment of a step or a nearby bench to slightly elevate your upper body by taking a bit of the pressure off of your shoulder joints and the lower back. And we are going to perform this variation for 35 seconds as well. For this next exercise, we are going to be performing some power plank ups. To perform this exercise, you're going to want to get into a plank position on your toes and elbows, then explode up in one motion, driving up hard with your elbows, landing on your hands. You're going to need stability in your shoulders, triceps, and chest, and adequate core strength to perform this exercise. And always remember to try to keep moving in a quick, explosive movement in between each repetition. And we are going to be performing this exercise for 10 repetitions each variation. For this next variation, we are going to be performing the power plank up, except this time for the starting position, we are going to be on our knees throughout the entire movement. Once again, just like previous variations of other exercises, performing this on your knees will make it easier to perform the explosive movement phase of the exercise. And this variation of the exercise is intended primarily for beginner athletes. And we are going to be performing it for 10 repetitions as well. This final variation is going to be a more challenging one, as we are going to be performing the same movement, except this time for the position, you are going to be placing your hands a little bit further up ahead of your eyesight. Performing the power plank up in this way will greatly increase the engagement of your abdominal muscles. And this variation is primarily recommended for more experienced athletes who want more of a challenge and more engagement during the exercise. And we are going to be performing this final variation for 10 repetitions as well. For this next exercise, we are going to be performing an exercise using a tennis ball for quickness and reaction. And we are going to be performing the extended drop and catch drill. And you're going to do this by being in a standing position, and you're going to alternate catching and releasing a tennis ball in each hand, extending each hand forward when catching the tennis ball. This is a great exercise for athletes who are looking to increase their speed and reaction time through hand-eye coordination. And many athletes involved in sports such as boxing or mixed martial arts may see this as a great activity to improve their speed. And we're going to be performing this drill for about 30 seconds. Now for a variation of this exercise, we are going to be performing the same exact movement in the upper body portion, except for this time in the starting position, instead of assuming a normal standing position, you are going to be in a split stance position with one foot in front of the other. Not only does this variation provide a more stable stance performing the exercise, but it also more accurately simulates the proper fighting stance for athletes involved in various sports combat. And make sure to do this variation for 30 seconds as well. For this final variation, it is going to be a little bit easier version of the exercise, as this time, instead of using a pronated grip to catch and release the tennis ball, you are going to use a supinated grip. Performing the exercise in this variation will actually extend the time window you have to catch the ball, which will make it an easier way to perform the exercise for beginner athletes. And we are going to be performing this final variation for another 30 seconds as well. For this next exercise, we are going to be performing another speed and reaction drill with a tennis ball, which will be a tennis ball bounce reaction drill. So to perform the exercise while trying to stay in a split stance position, you're going to alternate smacking the ball with the inside portion of both your left and right hands. smacking the ball with each hand in a downward movement, which will cause the tennis ball to bounce back up each time. And we're going to perform this drill for about the next 30 to 35 seconds. And during the drill, remember to be constantly shifting your feet and moving your entire body depending on where the ball is, as this exercise can be great for those who are looking to improve their reaction time and their footwork agility as well. For the second variation, we are going to be performing the same exact movement, except this time you are going to be in a deeper squatted down position. Performing the exercise in this way will decrease the amount of time you have in between bounces to slap the ball, and may provide a more challenging way to perform the exercise for athletes who wish to increase their speed and reaction time even more so. And once again, we are going to be performing this variation for another 30 to 35 seconds. Now for this final variation, it is going to be a bit of an easier version, as instead of alternating between your left and right hands to tap the ball each time, you're only going to be using one hand throughout the entire drill. You may choose to do it with either your left or your right hand, depending on which one you feel more dominant on. This will be an easier variation of the exercise, as you only have to focus on one hand throughout the entire drill and requires less hand-eye coordination. And once again, we are going to be performing this final variation for another 30 to 35 seconds. This next exercise we are going to be performing is a great one for those attempting to improve their explosive takeoffs during track events, as we are going to be doing some resisted single leg knee drives for 12 repetitions on each leg. So to perform this exercise, you're going to want to anchor the resistance band around a pillar or a stable surface. Then place the band around your ankle and stand a certain distance away from the anchor so that the band is in tension. Then face away from the anchor and assume a position so that your legs are in a split stance, like you are in a mid-stride. Then to perform the movement, you're going to want to drive your knee upward, making sure the thigh is horizontal. Then you're going to want to control the leg back down to its starting position. It's also important to have the arms involved in this movement as well, and always remember to be explosive with each knee drive. And now we are going to switch to the other leg for 12 repetitions as well. So for this next variation, we are going to be performing the same exact resisted single leg knee drive, except this time holding onto a stable surface with both hands, like a box shown in the video. performing the exercise in this way is a more simple and regressive way to perform the exercise for those who are having difficulty balancing during the standard way of doing it. And it also provides the ability for you to focus a bit more of your efforts on the explosive movement phase of the exercise. And we are going to be performing this for 12 repetitions on each leg as well. And we are now going to switch to the left leg for another 12 repetitions. Now for this final variation of the exercise, we are going to be performing the same movement as the standard single leg knee drive, except this time you're going to be keeping your back leg off the ground throughout the entire movement. As performing the exercise in this way is a more progressive variation, as it will slightly increase the distance of travel during the explosive movement phase of the knee drive. And it will require a higher level of power output for those who wish to perform the exercise in this way. And because of the increased difficulty of balance during this variation of the exercise, I thought it would be best to keep my hands on a stable surface during this variation of the exercise as well. And we are going to be performing this final variation for 12 repetitions on each leg as well. Now go ahead and switch to the other leg and perform another 12 repetitions. This final exercise we are going to be performing is called the top speed strike step for 12 repetitions on each leg. You are going to hook the band onto a stable surface and place the other end on one of your ankles. Make sure to stand an appropriate distance from the anchor point so you feel a good amount of resistance and tension from the band. And you are going to perform the movement by continuously lifting your leg up in a bent position at a right angle and striking it back down in an explosive manner. And make sure to swing your arms as shown in the video during each repetition as well. Similar to the resisted single leg knee drive exercise, this is a great exercise for those involved in running and track events, as it will improve your speed and your power output in between strides. Remember to maintain an explosive movement between each repetition. Now go ahead and switch to the opposite leg and continue for another 12 repetitions. For this next variation, we are going to be performing the same movement, except this time lifting the opposite leg off the ground during each repetition. Meaning that at the same moment that you're striking your leg back down to the ground, you're going to be moving your opposite leg back up at a right angle as shown in the video. Performing the exercise in this way will simply better simulate and more accurately represent this running and stride motion of a track athlete. Remember once again to perform each repetition with an explosive and fast movement. And we are going to be performing this for 12 repetitions on each leg as well. Now go ahead and switch the band to the other leg and perform for another 12 repetitions as well. For this final variation, we are going to be performing the same movement as the original top speed strike step, except this time holding onto a stable surface. Now, as explained in past exercises, performing this exercise holding onto a stable surface is a great regressive way to perform the exercise for those who struggle with balance, and will place more focus on the movement phase of the exercise rather than having to focus on one's balance. And once again, we are going to be performing this exercise for 12 repetitions on each leg. All right, now we'll go ahead and switch to the opposite leg and perform for another 12 repetitions. So to start off our cool down, we are going to begin with some jump switch lunges for about 40 seconds. So perform the movement with your feet shoulder width apart, keeping your core engaged and your shoulders back. Then step back with your left leg low to the ground and keep the weight on the ball of your back foot and make sure your front foot is flat. Then jump up to switch legs in midair with your left leg forward and right leg back and land with both knees at a relatively 90-degree angle. And you're going to continue alternating back and forth between each leg for the next 40 seconds. Performing these jump lunges after a full workout will not only help you get back to a resting heart rate, but they will also strengthen your lower body muscles, including your glutes, your quadriceps, your hamstrings, hip flexors, and calves, and will also improve your balance and challenge your core muscles as well. Now, once we are back to a resting heart rate, we are going to begin some cool down stretches, beginning with the hip flexor stretch, also known by many as the frog stretch. So to perform this stretch, you're going to assume a quadruped position with your knees and hands on the floor, and then you're going to turn your toes outward to externally rotate the femur. Then open up at your knees and allow them to be as far apart as possible, and begin to sit backward and downward, and make sure your behind should begin to fall between the knees. Then this is the point where you should feel the full depth of the stretch. And we are going to hold this position for about 1 minute, making sure to perform proper breathing with your diaphragm while you're holding the position. Performing the frog stretch is a great one that will help open up your hips and groin muscles and will increase circulation and improve your posture as well. For our next cool down exercise, we are going to be performing some standing shoulder rolls for about 35 to 40 seconds, both forward and backwards. So it's fairly simple to perform this movement. All you're going to do is stand straight with your arms extended and at your sides and with your feet shoulder width apart. And you're going to slowly rotate your shoulders forward in a circular motion. Once you finish doing this for about 40 seconds, you're going to then begin to switch and rotate your shoulders in a backward circular motion. Performing shoulder rolls is a great upper body cool down that can help you pull your shoulders back and open up your chest, bringing a much needed relief to your upper body. And they can also alleviate pain and tension as well. Now go ahead and switch and begin to rotate your shoulders in a circular motion backwards. For our next cool down stretch, we are going to be performing what is called the 90-90 stretch for 1 minute on each side. So to perform this movement, you're going to sit on the floor and bend one leg in front of your body with your hips rotated out. And position it so that your lower leg and knee are resting on the ground. And your legs should form about a 90-degree angle, and your ankle should be neutral so your foot is pointed straight. Then position your other leg beside you with your hip rotated inward and your shin and ankle on the ground. Then bend your knees so your leg forms a 90-degree angle, and make sure your back knee is in line with your hip and your ankle in a neutral position. Assume and hold this position for the next minute, and then go ahead and switch to the other side and hold for another minute as well. Performing the 90-90 stretch will primarily target your hip flexors, your glutes, and your external rotators. And it can also help increase your flexibility and your range of motion in the hip joint. And it's a great stretch to help prevent injuries in your hips, your lower back, and your knees by promoting optimal hip mobility and flexibility. Now go ahead and switch to the other side and assume the position for another minute. For our next cool down stretch, we are going to be performing what is known as the butterfly stretch for 1 minute. So you're going to perform this stretch by bending your knees and bringing the soles of your feet together in a comfortable position in front of the groin, and allow your knees to gently fall open to either side of the floor. Then gently hold your ankles, and you're going to press down onto your inner thighs with your forearms. And you're going to hold this position for the next minute. Performing this stretch is one that will primarily target your hips, your groin, your inner thighs, and your knees. And it's an ideal stretch for those who struggle with tight hips from either excessive sitting or high-intensity workouts. So with that, we have now come to the final stretch of our entire video, and we are going to be performing the line single leg knee hug for about 40 seconds on each side. So this is a fairly simple stretch to perform, as all you're going to do is lie back and extend one leg straight and one leg bent. Then you're going to hug this knee with both hands and pull it towards your chest. And make sure to gently press on your knee and pull it towards your face. And you're going to hold this position for about the next 40 seconds. Then you're going to switch to the other leg and perform for another 40 seconds as well. Performing the lying knee hug will primarily stretch the glutes and the lower back, as well as stretching the hip flexors as well. Alright, now go ahead and switch to the other leg and perform for about another 40 seconds. All right, and with that, we have officially come to the end of our entire training session. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and please feel free to use any of these exercises shown in the video during y'all's future exercise routines.